Today we'll be talking about right attitude towards personal finance and wealth. My name is Samuel Makome and an elder at CITAM Valley Road. One of the things we have to have towards personal finance and wealth is an attitude that we are stewards. According to the scriptures in Luke chapter 19 verse 11 and 26, and also in Matthew 25 verse 14 to 30, which is a parable of the talents, it teaches that we are stewards because everything belongs to God and all we have is temporary custody. And at the end of life and time, we shall be held to account for everything that God has given us. In the area of wealth and all the things that are in the world, God is the owner of everything. The scriptures teach in Psalm 24 and verse 1 that the earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof. In Haggai chapter 2 and verse 8, God says, "The silver is mine and the gold is mine." In Psalm 50 and verse 10, God says, "Every beast of the forest is mine, even the cattle on 1,000 hills." That means that everything belongs to God, not the devil, not the wicked, not even us. Everything belongs to God, and all of us are stewards. Stewardship of our lives is therefore important, and our approach to wealth, to personal finance, and to our day-to-day needs to be guided by this superior principle, that we are stewards of what God has given us. Oftentimes when Christians talk about wealth, about money, about financial management, they think of it as something foreign, something separate from their spirituality. But Christ teaches very profoundly in Matthew chapter 6 about how we are supposed to approach our daily needs, how we are supposed to think about our clothes, buying things, cars, whatever, our houses. Christ did address this issue, meaning it is an important topic. In Matthew chapter 6 verse 24 to 30, Jesus says that no one can serve two masters. You'll either hate the one or love the other. You cannot serve God and mammon. He therefore contrasts two systems: the system of serving God or serving worldly possessions. If Christ says you cannot serve both, he knows what he's talking about. You cannot serve God and serve mammon. You'll either hate one or love the other. Then he says, therefore, don't be anxious. The Christian is not to be anxious about eating, drinking, personal finance, where he's going to get his next meal from, will he get school fees. All these things, you should not be anxious. And many people argue, but how can I not be anxious about these things? The reality is, if Christ tells us not to be anxious, we should not be anxious. And he explains why. He says that God takes care of the birds. God takes care of the flowers. And he says, are you not of more value? And he tells us in Matthew chapter 6 verse 27, by worrying you cannot add anything to your stature. Therefore you should not worry. And therefore he then gives us a superior principle. What is that principle? The principle is found in Matthew 6:33. But first seek his kingdom and his righteousness, and all these things shall be yours as well. The Christian's attitude about their next meal, about work, about everything, should be around centering their lives in God's kingdom. Align yourself to God's kingdom first, his priorities, his ways, his word, and then other things about your needs will then be aligned. This is where we fail, because oftentimes we are too worried. We think about a job as just a job, not realize that as a Christian, you are living within God's entire kingdom and that you are to align your purposes with his. The scripture teaches in Colossians 3:23, whatever you do, work heartily as serving the Lord and not men. And it says, you will receive an inheritance, verse 24, because you serve the Lord Christ. So the Christian is supposed to abandon worry about money, about their next meal, about clothing, and align themselves to God's kingdom. And once they realize they are stewards in God's kingdom and and align themselves and commit themselves to the kingdom, these things are then made available to them as they serve in the kingdom. This is a very important principle in the area of building your own wealth and aligning your finances and your purposes to God's superior will. Thank you for watching CITAM Church Online. For any comments or queries, please comment below.